Open it, sweetie. You're gonna love this one.
Seriously, Mom? You're making it sound like a diamond ring.
Trust me, it's special.
I swear, if this is another scented candle, I'm boycotting birthdays forever. I, Claire Morrison, once thought that turning 35 would mark a fresh new chapter, kind of like a glow-up era people always talk about on TikTok. I spent the entire morning in the cozy little kitchen of my old wooden house on Jasmine Street, in the heart of Charleston, South Carolina. This house wasn't just where I lived. It was my whole heart. Every brick wall I had scrubbed clean by hand, every window pane I had personally replaced, and the backyard, now bursting with lavender in full bloom, was where I found myself again during those lonely years. The party that day was simple. No fancy concept or glittery staging. Just familiar faces. My parents, uncles, my brother Jake, and my always a little too perfect cousin Sienna, the one who always showed up looking like a Pinterest girl in cocktail dresses that didn't match the warm, homey vibe of my house. My mom handed me a silver envelope, tied with a red ribbon like it held a glowing blessing inside. I opened it amid the sound of laughter, the scent of vanilla cake still lingering in the air. But instead of a gift, I received an eviction notice. A short, bold headline, sharp as a cold blade slicing straight through my chest. The crowded room suddenly fell silent. I froze, my hands suspended in the air, my eyes scanning the faces, but everyone just looked down or away. "What is this?" I asked softly, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. No one answered. My father looked down. My mom swallowed hard again and again, while Jake, once my closest childhood friend, took a step back, as if afraid I might catch fire. And Sienna with her faint, weightless smile, now laced with menace. No longer sweet, but weaponized. "Claire, it's time we were honest with each other," my mom said, her voice trembling like a passing breeze. I shot to my feet, the chair screeching against the wooden floor like the sound of a relationship cracking apart. "This house is mine. Every brick, every door, every last penny, every dream. I poured it all into this place." Sienna calmly set down her wineglass and stood like she was about to give a gala speech. "On paper, the house is still in your parents' name. I'm just helping the family make a smarter decision. This neighborhood is hot right now. Don't let emotions cloud your judgment, Claire." I let out a hollow laugh, not from humor, but disbelief. "So this is the gift you all prepared for me? A swift kick out of my own life?" No one spoke up. Not one person stood by me. And that was the moment I realized the truth doesn't always come wrapped in light. Sometimes it arrives in the form of a cold paper and the deceitful eyes of people who share your last name. The lesson began at the very moment my heart was crushed. We are taught that family is the safest place, the ultimate anchor. But sometimes it's the first place that turns its back on you. Claire, like so many other women, had believed that devotion, love, and sacrifice would be rewarded with kinship. But life doesn't always play out like those cozy holiday family movies on Netflix. The real pain isn't losing a house. It's when people look at the efforts of your entire life and treat it as something to barter away for property value. The real pain is when you look around and realize you've built a sanctuary in the heart of a storm, and the storm is your own family. Claire didn't collapse during that birthday party. She kicked each person out, not with shouting, but with a stare strong enough to send them retreating. Because inside her, a fire had just been lit, not of revenge, but of awakening. And the greatest gift of all? Sometimes the real birthday present doesn't come from others. It comes from that moment you choose to stand for yourself, step out of the role of the nice one your family forced you into for years. Claire Morrison learned one thing for sure. Not everyone deserves to walk into the space you built with your own hands, even if they share your blood, even if they once called you sister. Because a real home doesn't exist in paperwork. It lives in the heart of the one who lived, loved, and rose up for it. That night, Charleston was drenched in rain, a light spring drizzle like mist, but cold to the bone. I sat motionless in the armchair by the window, once my favorite reading spot. The house was steeped in silence, but something inside me was stirring, as if the rain was waking up a part of me I thought I'd lost. The woman who doesn't get pushed aside so easily. The eviction notice still sat there on the table, next to a cold cup of tea and a few untouched pieces of birthday cake. Sienna, with her overly polished appearance and words as smooth as a real estate ad, had calculated everything. She wasn't alone, and I wouldn't be alone anymore either. I picked up my phone, fingers trembling slightly but still managing to dial the familiar number. After just 3 rings, the voice I knew so well came through. Claire, are you okay? No, Emma, not okay at all. Do you still have the renovation files we scanned when we applied for the building permits last year? Of course. Where do you want to start? With the truth. Emma arrived in less than an hour, carrying her laptop, a folder of documents, and a red umbrella I used to jokingly call the anti-drama weapon. She didn't ask too many questions, just opened her laptop, plugged it in, and started digging. That's what I loved most about Emma. No judgment, no doubt, just presence, like a quiet light guiding you when you've lost your way. Here it is, Emma said after almost 40 minutes of intense searching, turning the screen toward me. All the permit files, blueprints, renovation requests, there's even confirmation emails from City Council. Everything's legit. I gripped the edge of the chair tightly. Sienna said a neighbor filed a complaint about me building without a permit. She even showed my parents some documents, ones I never got to see. Emma frowned. So there are only 2 options. Either it's a false complaint, or those documents were completely fabricated. I nodded. In my mind, I started connecting the scattered pieces of memory. Sienna's wary glance when I talked about fixing the roof, her vague questions about insurance and property value, the private meetings with my parents I was never invited to. This was bigger than I thought. The next morning, I arranged to meet Jake, my brother, at Magnolia Bean Cafe, where we used to drink hot cocoa every Christmas as kids. Jake walked in looking pale, the hood of his sweatshirt pulled low. No coffee, no greetings. I placed a stack of papers in front of him. You knew about this, didn't you? Jake didn't answer right away. After a pause, he gave a small nod. 2 weeks ago, Sienna said you didn't have legal standing to own the house. She showed Mom and Dad some documents. I had doubts, but I wasn't sure. I took a deep breath. And now? Jake flipped through the pages, his face gradually draining of color. She lied to all of us. Back home, Emma and I started making calls. She had an old friend, Chloe, who worked at the Charleston City Planning Office. After a few texts and a rushed coffee invitation, Chloe agreed to meet us at the public library. This is the alleged complaint. Chloe pointed at a printed copy on the table. However, there's no original, no file number, no listed name that matches anyone on Jasmine Street. To put it plainly, it's invalid. Emma stared in silence. So it's forged? Chloe nodded. Or staged. As we stepped out of the library, the sky had turned to amber. The last rays of sunlight touched the sign that read, Historic Jasmine District. And I suddenly realized I wasn't just defending a house. I was defending a piece of history. A piece of truth buried under layers of polished lies and sugar-coated words. Sienna wanted to play suburban politician? Fine. But she picked the wrong opponent. Because this time, I won't just fight back. I'll expose. 3 days after the meeting at the library, the atmosphere in my house was tight like a stretched string. Even footsteps on the wooden floor sounded louder. Emma and I barely slept. The kitchen table, once our cozy weekend coffee corner, was now buried under documents, scanned files, and notes marked with neon highlighters. But what I couldn't stop thinking about wasn't just the forged paperwork. It was the real reason behind it all. Sienna didn't just want to sell the house. She was laying out an investment strategy. And that reminded me of a name my dad had casually mentioned during a family dinner. Lucas Harper, Sienna's boyfriend, a highly ambitious real estate investor, described as someone who built luxury apartment chains from aging neighborhoods. I instantly Googled his name. The search results popped up fast. Lucas Harper, CEO of Harper Development Group, followed by articles about completed projects in Atlanta, Raleigh, and most recently, Charleston. One piece highlighted an upcoming project set to launch in Central Jasmine Street, a luxury complex called Jasmine Heights. I froze. The complex was named exactly after the street I lived on. And when I opened the attached design blueprint, I didn't even need to check the address. The plot layout, the garage location, the garden corner, it was my house. Claire, Emma called from the living room, still glued to her computer screen. I found the full CAD file of Jasmine Heights design. It's extremely detailed, and the sender's name is Sienna M. Carson. I walked over, speechless. She had directly sent the blueprint to Lucas's company. This isn't just a scheme to kick you out, Emma said, her voice colder than usual. This is a targeted takeover and maybe even money laundering. If we trace the connection between Sienna and Harper Development, the whole thing will collapse. I nodded, my mind racing through a flood of possibilities. And just then, my phone rang. It was Jake, my brother. Claire, you need to meet someone. The next morning, at a small cafe near the harbor, Jake introduced me to a man named Robert Lang, who worked at the Charleston City Planning Office. Robert was Jake's close friend from high school and was currently reviewing new Central District development projects. Robert opened a leather folder and pulled out a printed document. "This is the preliminary file for Jasmine Heights," he said, flipping through the pages. "Submitted by Harper Development Group with attached consent from the current landowners, your parents." I frowned. "You mean they signed off on selling the land?" "The problem is," Robert lowered his voice, "the signatures don't match any administrative documents previously filed by Mr. and Mrs. Rickman. The ink's different too, like it was pasted on later." Emma flipped through the file and pointed to the notary seal at the bottom. "Elizabeth Carson, Notary Public." Jake and I froze at the same time. "Carson is Sienna's mother's last name," Jake said, eyes wide. "She retired over a year ago." Robert nodded. "And if this seal was used after that date, then it's forged notarization, a criminal offense." The room fell completely silent. I felt like I had just unlocked a new level of the black hole called family. Sienna wasn't just deceitful. She was stepping into the legal shadows with a red lipstick smile and eyes glittering with confidence. I looked at Emma. "You think we have enough to flip the game?" She lifted her cappuccino, eyes glowing. "We're missing one thing, a stage." Sienna wanted to introduce Lucas to investors at a lavish engagement party, where every influential figure in Charleston's financial world would be present. And that would be the moment we'd light up the truth, right where she thought she would shine the most. Because this time, I'd be the one turning on the spotlight. From the moment the Jasmine Heights blueprint was revealed, I no longer saw Sienna as family. She had stepped beyond the line of kinship and into the realm of ambition, where fame and money eclipse blood ties. But there was one thing she forgot. I was no longer the weak Claire Morrison of the past. I was the one who had poured every drop of sweat, every dream into that house. And now I had a team. Emma, the friend who helped me survive our pressure-packed senior year of college. Jake, the brother who admitted his mistake and turned back just in time. And now a new name entered the fight. Lena Harper, Lucas's younger sister. I had never spoken much with Lena. At family gatherings, she always stood in the back, quiet and reserved. But that night, I received a brief text from an unknown number. "Claire, I know everything. Meet me at 5 p.m. at Blackbird Cafe. Don't tell anyone." Lena arrived early. She wore a charcoal gray trench coat, no makeup, nothing flashy like Charleston's high society would expect. "I've read Lucas's emails," she said as soon as I sat down. "And I heard the recording of the meeting between him and Sienna. Claire, you need to know. They plan to demolish your house within 2 months. It's all mapped out." I didn't ask why she was helping. Lena answered anyway. "I used to think Lucas built out of passion, but he only craves power. And Sienna, she's using him like a pawn on a chessboard. I can't watch my family become thieves. I brought this." She pushed a USB drive toward me. Inside are recordings, emails, internal contracts, even blueprints marked confidential. All of it is real. I took it, my hands shaking. "Thank you." Thank you for standing up. I didn't have that kind of courage. We had only one chance, the engagement party at the Bellevue Grand Hotel, where investors, journalists, and both families would gather to witness Sienna and Lucas's golden moment. But instead of fireworks and applause, they would witness a truth that could no longer be ignored. Sarah Holden, my lawyer, spent 3 full days compiling the evidence into a complete dossier, forged documents, illegal notarizations, falsified testimonies, and the recording confirming the property manipulation scheme. Emma edited a presentation video. Jake reached out to the media. Lena, as a Harper family member, would get me into the event. No one suspected what was coming. That night, I wore a simple black dress, high neckline, long sleeves, a silent declaration that I wasn't there to shine. I was there to expose. The ballroom shimmered under crystal chandeliers. Sienna, radiant in a pure white gown, arm in arm with Lucas, looked like a power couple from a magazine cover. But her eyes froze when she saw me. I walked straight into the center of the hall, raised a wine glass, and gently tapped the rim. "Excuse me, may I have a minute? I'm not here to congratulate. I'm here to share something these two never intended to reveal." The large screen behind the stage lit up. The first image was the Jasmine Heights layout, showing the address 237 Jasmine Street. My house. Murmurs filled the room. "I'm the owner of that house," I said, voice clear and firm, "and I have never given anyone permission to sell, demolish, or redevelop it." Next came the notarized papers with the illegal seal of Sienna's mother. Then the recording. Sienna's voice rang out, cold and calculated. "As long as we get the signature, Claire won't have a leg to stand on. That house will be the foundation of my new life." Guests fell silent. Lucas turned pale. Sienna tried to stay composed, but her eyes were full of panic. And then, the city's investigative officers entered the room. "Ms. Sienna Carson, Mr. Lucas Harper, we have a warrant to detain you for investigation of forged legal documents and attempted property fraud." I looked at Sienna one last time. She turned away without a word. The party fell quiet, as if the entire room had just woken up from a lavish, deceitful dream. I walked out of the hotel, needing no applause, no praise. Just the cool night breeze brushing my shoulders and the soft exhale from deep in my chest. Because I knew, the fight for justice, I had won. And the darkness they once thought was their safest cover had been burned away by the light of truth. The morning after the engagement party, I didn't wake up to the sound of an alarm clock, but to something else. Peace. A feeling I hadn't fully experienced in months. No more interrupted dreams fearing my home would be taken away. No more waking up in the middle of the night just to check the locks one more time. I stepped out onto the porch, holding a steaming cup of coffee. The scent of lavender from the backyard still lingered in the air, mixed with a thin veil of morning mist. My house. It still stood, steady, resilient, and full of memories. But today, it wasn't just where I lived. It was a symbol of a battle I didn't back down from. Living proof that no one can take away what belongs to you when you dare to stand up for it. 3 days later, I received a call from the Charleston City Planning Office. The voice on the other end spoke briefly. "The Jasmine Heights project has been revoked, and your home is being considered for historic preservation status." I nearly dropped the phone. The feeling wasn't triumph. It was relief, like the house had finally been recognized as what I had always known it to be. Part of a legacy, part of the city's soul. Emma came by that afternoon, bringing a bouquet of wildflowers and a bag of donuts from our favorite bakery. "You know," she said as she set the flowers on the kitchen table, "this house should be a place where people come to learn how to protect what truly matters." "You mean, like a tour?" I laughed. "No, I mean turn this place into a living symbol of courage, kindness, and truth." Just then, Jake arrived with his wife and kids. His children ran through the yard like it had always been their playground. Jake set down a box of paint and took off his jacket. "I think the fence could use a fresh coat." We began repainting the white fence, once chipped and worn by wind and rain, now gleaming again under the sunlight. Every brush stroke felt like it was covering over a painful memory and replacing it with something whole. A few weeks later, I received a small wooden box from my mother. She didn't say much, just placed it in my hands with eyes that had softened after the storms. Inside was an old wooden comb, which she said belonged to my grandmother, the woman who lived in this house before me. Grandma always said, "This isn't just a house, it's the soul of the family." I said nothing. I simply opened the living room window, the one where I used to sit and read when I was 12, and let the sunlight fall into the palm of my hand, holding the comb. Then one day, Lena Harper returned. But this time, she didn't bring a USB or evidence. She came with a plan. "I've left Harper Development," she said, "and I want to do what's right. I'm starting a preservation fund for historic neighborhoods in Charleston. And if you're willing, I'd like to make your house the first project." I paused for a few seconds. This house will be a light in the heart of the city, proof that some things can't be bought. And so, spring came in full bloom on Jasmine Street. The lilac bushes blossomed beside the newly painted fence. The house became a gathering place, where kids learned about architecture, where community groups met, and where anyone could find a bit of inspiration to stand up for what they believed in. No sign, no title, just footsteps walking in with sincerity. Sienna? She never reappeared. A suspended sentence, a restraining order, and silence from the family. Lucas vanished from Charleston, and no one spoke of the Jasmine Heights project again. But I didn't care about that past anymore, because I no longer lived in the shadow of betrayal. I lived in the light of truth, within a home that had been saved, and with a new family I chose for myself. People not bound by blood, but united by shared values. And that is what a home truly is. Not the place you were born, but the place you dare to protect with all your heart. One Monday morning, as I was trimming the lavender bushes in the backyard, the doorbell rang. It wasn't the cheerful kind of ring from the neighborhood kids, nor the familiar knock of Jake or Emma. It was a slow, hesitant chime, as if the person pressing it wasn't even sure they should be standing there. I wiped my hands with the cloth hanging on the clothesline and walked to the gate. Standing there, in a slightly wrinkled shirt, hands in his pockets, without a blazer, without the arrogant confidence I last saw in him, was Lucas Harper. "I'm not here to apologize," he said immediately, his voice deep but tired, "because I know sorry won't change anything. I came to speak the truth." I crossed my arms and stood still. "I'm listening." Lucas looked down at his feet for a moment, as if carefully choosing his words. "I've resigned. Harper Development is under investigation, and I'll be cooperating with them in every aspect. I'm not a victim, Claire, I know that. But I also don't want to be the one causing harm anymore." I stayed silent. These words came too late, but at least they weren't lies. "I heard Lena is starting a preservation program. I want to contribute financially. No name, no PR, no appearance. Just simply a part of making amends." I looked him in the eye. "You think money can make up for everything?" Lucas shook his head. "Number, I just think, if it can help someone else not go through what you did, then maybe my exit isn't entirely meaningless." I sighed, turning back toward the garden, sunlight casting through the leaves, revealing the cracks in the wall, cracks I had once patched with my own hands. "I won't thank you," I said calmly, "but I won't stop you from doing the right thing either. Lena will know how to use the contribution." Lucas nodded. "That's enough." We didn't shake hands. No polite smiles. But for the first time since everything began, I saw someone who once stormed into my life like a hurricane, now standing before me as a human being, raw, unarmored, and trying to start over. A week later, I hosted a small backyard gathering. Not a victory or celebration party like people throw after surviving a storm, but a quiet reunion with the ones who stayed when everything fell apart. Emma brought strawberry tarts. Jake and the kids brought a small wooden nameplate engraved with the words, "Rickman House, where stories live." Lena arrived late carrying a large wooden frame. "This one belonged to your grandmother, right?" she asked, lifting the frame. Inside was a black and white photo, a woman with her hair neatly pinned up, standing in front of the porch with a gentle smile and eyes full of hope. I nodded. She used to say, "People can sell the land, tear down the walls, replace the roof, but a house never leaves the place where the heart remembers it." We hung the photo beneath the old cherry tree in the yard. The evening sunlight filtered through the leaves, lightly touching the glass, like a quiet blessing unspoken. That night, after everyone had left, I sat alone on the front steps, bare feet resting on the warm brick floor. I looked around. The freshly painted white fence, my grandmother's photo, the freshly nourished flower beds. Each thing was a mark of a process no one saw, the healing process. I thought of Lucas, not with anger, but like a period closing an old chapter. And Sienna? No one mentioned her anymore. And I didn't need to either. Because what mattered more than anything was, I had kept the house. But deeper than that, I had kept the belief that what truly belongs to you, if you are brave enough to stand up, can never be taken away. And sometimes it's from the very people who hurt us the most that a new beginning, forgiveness, and a redefined sense of purpose can emerge. Summer came to Charleston like a radiant symphony. Bright red bougainvillea vines began to drape along the porch, sparrows chirped by the kitchen window, and the lilacs by the gate bloomed just in time in their gentle purple hues. No more stormy chaos, no more bitter voices in cold, distant parties. Only the everyday sounds remained, steady, slow, and peaceful. I called that day the day of return, not because someone came back from afar, but because I, Claire Morrison, after everything, had returned to myself, to the house, to the things I once believed were lost. And for the first time in a long while, I hosted a true gathering. No purpose, no subtext, no emotional armor. Just a celebration of those who stayed when I had nothing left to make them stay. The backyard was decorated with soft yellow string lights. Wooden tables were set around the old cherry tree, where my grandmother's frame still hung quietly. On the tables were simple porcelain plates, a few jars of wildflowers, and dishes brought from many kitchens, each one a story. Jake grilled BBQ. Emma made my favorite pasta salad. Lena brought a French-style tart she learned from a friend in the preservation group. Jake's kids ran across the yard, shouting over a bubble war with the neighborhood children. The laughter burst like waves crashing the shore, then faded gently into the twilight. I sat there, among familiar voices, with a glass of lemonade in hand, and wondered, could happiness come not from grand victories, but from the calm that follows a battle? As night fell, I stood, lifted my glass, and tapped it softly for a moment of silence. Everyone turned toward me. No speech was prepared, but some things don't need paper. Thank you, not just for being here today, but for being here, all this time. I paused, my eyes on my grandmother's frame. This house was almost no longer mine, but thanks to all of you, not only did I keep it, I realized it could belong to all of us. Emma chimed in, half joking, Claire should host this every year. What should we call it? Trust Day? The whole backyard laughed. Jake raised his glass, more serious. I think we should call it the Day of Return, because today, Claire didn't just keep the house. She brought the family back together. I didn't try to hide my tears, but they were the most beautiful kind, the tears of healing. After the gathering, I sat alone on the front steps, the place where it all began, where I once trembled opening the eviction letter, where I once watched my family walk away without looking back. Today, that place was full of footprints from the ones I loved. Laughter still echoed somewhere in the night air. The scent of baked goods, grass, and real life, the kind money can't buy and ambition can't steal. I looked up at the Charleston night sky, where the stars shimmered like a quiet reminder that sometimes we have to lose everything to realize what can never be lost. This house, with every brick, each window frame, every scratch on the wooden floor, is not just a physical space. It's my living declaration of courage, of refusing to stay silent in the face of injustice, of not losing myself just to please others. I am no longer the woman who used to bow her head and accept blame even when I wasn't wrong. I'm the woman who learned how to rise, walk through the storm, and come back whole. And if you've ever found yourself feeling alone in a house that no longer felt like yours, if you've ever been betrayed by those you once called family, then remember this: you can lose everything, but if you still have faith, you can begin again. And maybe, from the very place where you were once cast out, you will rebuild something even stronger than a roof over your head, a life that cannot be shaken.